the weight of what you're carrying. There comes a point in every believer's life when the weight of what they're holding begins to feel unbearable. You look around and realize that what once gave you comfort now feels heavy, unfamiliar. It's that strange place between holding on and letting go, where your heart still remembers what it was, but your spirit knows it can't stay the same. You pray, but the answers don't come as quickly as before. You ask God for clarity, yet all you feel is silence. The truth is, sometimes God allows that silence so you can finally hear what your heart has been avoiding, that what you're clinging to might be the very thing He's trying to release. We often confuse holding on with being faithful, but there are seasons when faith looks more like surrender. When God begins to prepare you to walk away, it's not because He wants to take something good from you. It's because He sees what's ahead, and He knows that carrying certain people, habits, or attachments into your next chapter would break you before you arrive. Letting go doesn't always mean losing. Sometimes it means making space, for peace, for growth, for something far better than what you thought you'd need. God doesn't take to hurt you, He takes to make room. Maybe that's where you are right now, feeling the pull to release something you love, yet unsure why. Maybe this message found you for a reason. Because the truth is, when God begins to prepare your heart to walk away, it's a divine act of mercy. He's not breaking you down, He's setting you free. So, let's look at 9 signs that God is releasing you from what's holding you back. If this feels like your season of release, stay till the end. It may be the confirmation your heart's been waiting for. Sign 1. Your spirit feels restless where you once felt peace. There was a time when being in that place with those people felt right. It brought you peace, a sense of belonging that felt like home. But lately something's changed. You can't explain it, but your spirit feels unsettled. What once brought joy now feels heavy. What once energized you now drains you. That restlessness isn't random. It's revelation. It's God's quiet way of showing you that a chapter is closing, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. You see, God rarely shouts when He's trying to move you. More often He withdraws the peace that once kept you still. When peace leaves, it's not always because something went wrong. Sometimes it's because God has already moved ahead of you and He's calling you to follow. Staying where He no longer resides will only make you feel stuck, frustrated, and disconnected. So if you've been asking, why doesn't this feel right anymore? Don't ignore that question. That inner restlessness is the Holy Spirit stirring you toward change. It's His way of preparing your heart to move from what's familiar to what's next. Faith doesn't just mean trusting God when He blesses, it means trusting Him when He disrupts. He knows that comfort can become a cage if you linger too long in a season that's already ended. So when your peace fades, don't panic. It's not abandonment, it's an invitation. God withdraws comfort not to confuse you, but to create motion in you. Because sometimes, the absence of peace is the first sign of divine redirection. If peace feels absent, God might be calling you higher. Subscribe for more faith reminders. Sign 2. Doors that once opened now start closing. You've been here before, standing in front of doors that once opened easily. Opportunities that once welcomed you now seem to shut tight without explanation. It's confusing. You replay everything in your head, wondering if you did something wrong. But sometimes those closed doors are not punishment, they're protection. When God begins to close doors that used to open, He's not rejecting you, He's redirecting you. He knows what's ahead, what you can't yet see. And often His no today is the mercy that saves you from regret tomorrow. The truth is, not every opportunity is meant to last forever. Some doors were only meant to open for a season, to teach, to shape, to strengthen. But when the purpose of that season is fulfilled, God shuts it to prepare you for something greater. It takes humility to accept divine closure. Our human nature wants to force doors open, to chase what's slipping away. Yet faith means trusting that when God removes access, He's not depriving you. He's directing you to something better aligned with your destiny. When a door closes, pause instead of pushing. Let stillness be your act of surrender. Because what seems like loss is often a shift in divine timing, a quiet rerouting toward a future that's safer, stronger, and more purposeful than you imagined. So if life feels like it's narrowing, don't despair. The hallway may be tight, but it's leading you toward a door only grace can unlock. If doors are closing, trust His plan, and subscribe for weekly faith messages. Sign 3. You feel emotionally detached from what you used to love. There was a time when your heart lit up for certain things. A dream, a friendship, a place that once carried deep meaning. But lately that spark feels dim. You go through the motions, but something inside you has shifted. The emotional connection that once felt so alive now feels distant, almost unfamiliar. This kind of detachment can be painful because it feels like you're losing a part of yourself. But what if it's not loss at all? What if it's God gently loosening your grip on what no longer aligns with your purpose? When God begins to redirect your heart, He doesn't always do it through chaos. Sometimes He does it through quiet withdrawal. You stop feeling the same joy from what used to excite you. You stop chasing what once gave you validation. It's not that your love was wasted, it's that your assignment there is complete. Detachment isn't disconnection, it's divine redirection. God knows that if your heart stays tied to the old, it can't fully embrace the new. So He allows certain affections to fade, not to harden you but to free you. You may not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and realize that God wasn't taking something from you. He was returning your heart to Himself. When your emotions start to feel detached, don't panic. That numbness isn't a sign of spiritual decline. It's a sign that heaven is shifting your focus. Your heart is being reprogrammed for purpose, and what once held your attention no longer holds your calling. If your heart feels distant, that's divine direction. Subscribe and stay encouraged. Sign 4. Familiar spaces start feeling foreign. It's a strange feeling, walking into a place that once felt like home and realizing it no longer fits. The people are the same, the conversations haven't changed, but something in your spirit has. You find yourself standing in rooms that once fueled you but now feel heavy, distant, almost foreign. When that happens, it's not just emotional disconnection, it's spiritual misalignment. It's God's way of signaling that your grace for that environment has expired. You've outgrown a season that no longer aligns with who you're becoming. God never intends for you to remain where His purpose no longer breathes. The same place that once grew you can begin to drain you when its purpose in your story is complete. What was once familiar now feels foreign because you've changed, and that's the evidence of divine progress. This kind of shift is never easy. Nostalgia will whisper, stay. Fear will tell you, you're safe here. But faith will remind you, you were never meant to stay forever. Sometimes, God changes your surroundings not to punish you but to awaken something deeper inside you, to remind you that comfort zones can quietly suffocate calling. So if your soul feels out of sync with your setting, don't resist it. That disconnection is direction. God is making you restless not because you're lost, but because He's about to relocate your purpose. The place that once felt like home is no longer holding your heart because heaven is preparing you for somewhere new. If you're feeling out of place lately, you're being prepared. Subscribe for strength in transition. Sign 5. You experienced delays and disruptions. You had it all mapped out, the timing, the plan, the outcome. Everything seemed aligned until suddenly, nothing went as expected. Plans fell apart. Opportunities slowed down. Doors that looked promising never opened. Feels frustrating, even unfair. But in God's kingdom, delays and disruptions are never accidents. They're divine appointments. God often interrupts our plans not to deny our dreams, but to protect His purpose. Sometimes He lets the pace slow down because what's ahead requires a version of you that isn't ready yet. What feels like a pause is really a process, the hidden work of preparation. Every delay you face carries direction. It's God's way of saying, not yet, I'm building something in you first. Because rushing into the wrong season can ruin what patience could have perfected. When everything feels stuck, remember this: God is not stalling your life, He's staging your breakthrough. The waiting room may feel lonely, but it's where your roots deepen and your faith strengthens. Delays refine your focus, strip away distractions, and position you for divine timing. The next time plans crumble or momentum slows, shift your question from "Why me?" to "What are you preparing me for, Lord?" Because when God delays, He's not detouring your destiny, He's protecting it from premature exposure. And when the time is right, every disruption will make sense. You'll see that the doors He closed were the very ones that would have broken you, and the weight you hated became the foundation of your strength. If your plans keep shifting, God's hand is at work. Subscribe for guidance through waiting seasons. Sign 6. Your inner circle begins to change. Lately, you've noticed a shift. People you once called close don't feel as connected anymore. Conversations fade, communication slows, and bonds that once felt unbreakable begin to loosen. It's easy to take it personally, to wonder what went wrong. But often this isn't rejection, it's divine pruning. God changes your circle not to isolate you but to realign you. Some people were meant to walk with you for a season, not a lifetime. And when that season ends, He begins to remove what no longer contributes to your growth. It's His way of protecting your focus and your faith. Pruning is never comfortable. It hurts to lose connections that once brought comfort. But in the hands of God, removal is refinement. He subtracts the noise so His voice can become clearer. The people who leave aren't always bad, they're simply no longer part of the next chapter God is writing for you. When your inner circle shifts, don't chase what's leaving. Trust that God is creating space for new relationships rooted in purpose, not convenience. The ones who remain will carry the same spiritual frequency. People who will pray with you, push you, and help you rise. It's easy to mistake pruning for punishment, but every separation is strategic. God doesn't let anyone drift away unless their presence would delay your destiny. So when familiar faces fade, release them in peace. What feels like loss now will soon reveal itself as divine positioning. Because sometimes to hear God clearly, He must quiet the crowd around you. If certain people are fading away, trust the pruning. Subscribe for faith-filled clarity. Sign 7. You feel drawn to solitude and reflection. There comes a time when the noise of the world starts to feel overwhelming, and all you want is quiet. You stop craving crowds, you find peace in stillness, and you begin valuing moments alone more than constant connection. It's not that you've become distant, it's that your spirit is being called higher. When God begins to separate you, He often does it through solitude. It's in silence that He speaks most clearly. The stillness you're drawn to isn't emptiness, it's an invitation, a sacred space where your soul can finally breathe without distraction. Solitude is where transformation happens. Away from noise, you begin to hear His whispers. Away from the opinions of others, you rediscover who you are in His presence. This kind of separation isn't about isolation, it's about alignment. God removes external voices so you can recognize His internal leading. Many mistake this quiet season for loneliness, but in truth, it's holy preparation. Before every great move of God, there's always a hidden season, a time of refining in silence before revealing in purpose. So if you find yourself craving more time alone with God, don't fight it. Lean into it. It's in those private moments that He heals what the world never saw and strengthens what life once weakened. The solitude that feels strange now will soon become sacred. Because in separation, God restores your strength. In silence, He reminds you who you are. You're not being isolated, you're being aligned. If you're craving quiet, it's not loneliness, it's preparation. Subscribe to stay spiritually aligned. Sign 8. You sense new passions awakening. After every season of loss, there comes a quiet stirring, a sense that something new is beginning to form deep within you. It starts subtly, new ideas, fresh desires, unfamiliar interests that seem to light up your spirit again. You can't fully explain it, but it feels like your heart is waking up after a long sleep. This is how God births new vision. When one chapter closes, He doesn't leave you empty, He plants the seeds of something greater. The dreams that once fueled you may have faded, but they've made room for something more aligned with who you've become. God often lets old passions die so He can awaken new ones that serve His purpose. The desires forming in your spirit aren't random, they're divine invitations. What once satisfied you no longer does because you've outgrown that season. And now heaven is breathing fresh fire into your soul. This awakening is hope in motion. It's the sign that your wilderness is ending and your purpose is unfolding. Where you once felt empty, you now feel inspired. Where there was confusion, now there's clarity. Don't be afraid of these new stirrings, they're the language of destiny. God is not just reviving your passion, He's revealing your next assignment. Every ending in God's hands is the soil for a new beginning. And every new passion is proof that His plan for your life is still unfolding beautifully. So lean into the excitement. Let your heart dream again. Because what's awakening in you is not random, it's divine. If new dreams are stirring, you're stepping into purpose. Subscribe for more faith-based messages. Sign 9. You find peace in letting go. There comes a moment when the tears stop, the questions fade, and your heart simply exhales. You no longer feel the need to fight for what's already ended or force what God has clearly finished. Instead, there's peace, quiet, steady, undeniable peace. This is the peace of obedience. It's the moment when surrender no longer feels like loss but liberation. You begin to understand that letting go isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's choosing trust over control, faith over fear, and alignment over attachment. When you stop clinging to what God has released, your hands become free to receive what He's preparing. That calm you feel isn't emptiness, it's space. Space for healing. Space for hope. Space for new purpose to take root. Release is the final stage of refinement. It's where God polishes your character and strengthens your spirit. What once broke you now builds you. What once drained you now defines you. And in that stillness you finally see, God never left you, He was leading you all along. Peace after pain is proof of divine completion. You've made it through the breaking and now you're ready for the becoming. If peace has replaced pain, you've stepped into release. Subscribe for the next message that feeds your faith. The freedom of release. When you finally release what no longer belongs, you don't lose, you make room. Every surrender becomes sacred space for God to fill with something better, something divine. What once felt like breaking now feels like breathing again. The weight lifts, the fear fades, and peace quietly settles in. Surrender is not weakness, it's strength clothed in trust. It's choosing to believe that God's plan is still good, even when you don't understand it. Every time you let go in obedience, heaven moves on your behalf. And what you release in faith, God always replaces with purpose. Letting go is how faith breathes again. It's how your spirit resets, how your vision clears, and how your heart heals. You begin to realize, freedom was never about control, it was always about surrender. This is the freedom of release, walking unburdened, unafraid, and unchained, knowing that whatever lies ahead is held firmly in God's hands. Before you leave, take a second to subscribe. Your next breakthrough may be hidden in the next message. Stay faithful, stay free, and stay close to God.